All right. Hello. Welcome back to the Evolution podcast with Mac and Jenn. We are so excited to be here today, as always, right?
Yep.
Yep. And you know what? Actually, do you know what today is, Mac?
What it what is the
We are recording our 66th 66th episode.
awesome.
Isn't that pretty cool?
That's cool for me.
Yeah, I know, because I know 66 is a thing,
Yep.
right? Yeah, 66 episodes of the podcast. They say that most people don't make it past 10.
Yeah, I don't even think a lot of people even make it to 10.
No, like majority of people, they're like, I'm
It's
going to
like
start a
it's like
podcast. And
three to
then
five, and then maybe they get 12 eventually, and then they 12 to 14, then they're just stuck over a year or two, and that's it.
I have a girlfriend who she did she started a podcast, did 2 episodes, and then she stopped. And I listened to both her episodes and I was like, oh my God, this is really good. And I messaged her and I was like, you need to do more podcasts.
Keep doing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
But to be at 66, I feel like that's a huge win in itself. So I
Yeah,
can't,
that's a lot of content.
I
A
know.
lot of important, valuable content. So today, we're going to talk about something that, this is something that's kind of well, let's put it this way. If you don't have this done correctly, then there is no authority in your relationship, probably not even in your life. And so this is a conversation that we decided to talk about because it came up in one of our membership. And it's not just one person, it's multiple people, and it's happening in other areas. And there's some things that will dramatically improve relationships based on whether it has it or doesn't have it, and vice versa. So we'll kind of get into this a little bit. I don't want to give it away just yet, but on what it is, because I want to set this stage for why this is so important. And when it comes to like the relationship of a man and a woman where things are coming together, there's certain things that in our world today, the society has presented that, like men and women are equal, blah, blah, blah. And it's just not true. It's not how we're built. And someone can argue it. And what I'm not saying is, I'm not saying a woman can't do some of the things that a man can do and a man can't do. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is each of us has a natural gift by God given to us to be able to do things. And when we use those gifts naturally, we like we're more authentic to who we are. We attract the better people all the time. When a woman is doing things that are like fulfilling that feminine side, or not doing the things that are making her masculine, it really changes things. And so one of the biggest, you know, I guess, characters of a relationship with a woman and a man is a woman is not built to be safe, certain, these different things. Like that is provided by a man. And it's been that way since God created man. And anybody that wants to address God on that, you can go for it. But this happens where women need validation more often than men. Some of them have found ways to get it, or do this or do that. But when you're in a relationship, they're constantly wondering what's going on, questioning what's going on in his head. What do I need to take care of? What's this? What's that? What's this? And without clear guidance, it becomes a little bit unknown. And so then a woman will typically become dependent on herself because that's the only safe thing she knows. And so really, you're not necessarily in a relationship, you're in an arrangement. That's what kind of begins to happen. Is most people in the world today that have a healthy, what appears to be a healthy relationship, are actually in a private arrangement with themselves on their own agreed parameters, leaving God out of it, leaving the feminine and the masculine out of it, and not really becoming one, right? Because when you begin to become one, if a woman doesn't have certainty and a man doesn't have the respect of the woman, then it's never really going to come together as one. And if she can't trust you, then she's never going to give you the respect. And if you don't get the respect, then you don't get to fulfill that masculine part of the producer, the protector, the all these things that are like all of a sudden instinctually natural and like firing. And they will turn a man into just an amazing producer, protector, and everything else. When he gets those things that he doesn't even know he's missing until she goes all in and submits to it. But she will not submit if some of these things are missing. So, do you want to comment on any of that?
That was just a really great way, I feel like, to explain the point that you're making.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I don't
And
really have any comments, I don't think. I think that
yeah,
was just really great.
yeah, you understand what I'm talking about in the fact of when you decide to go feminine and actually realize that that requires submission to a man, it's like, whoa, wait, what? Okay, well then who am I submitting to? Because I'm not submitting to what I see out there.
Well, most women these days, especially, like, we don't we don't like the word submit because
No, triggering.
that feels
Like,
unsafe. That
trigger.
feels unsafe.
Yep.
And it feels unsafe because um it's there's not a lot of examples of like health the men that we want to submit to. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Like you, well, to most, well, we'll put it this way. 4 years ago,
Hmm.
did you know a man you would want to submit to?
I didn't know a man I would want to submit to, and I also didn't know that I wanted to submit. I just knew that I wasn't fulfilled.
Yeah.
And so if you would have told me 4 or 5 years ago, well, you just need to submit to your husband,
You'd be like,
I'd be like,
excuse
fuck
me?
you.
Yeah, like there's no, but what my point was, there wasn't a man that you had met in your life that you thought it would be a good idea to submit to.
Right. And the reason that I didn't want to submit to him was because I didn't fully, two things I think. I didn't fully respect him and I didn't fully feel safe enough to do so.
Yep.
And so when I was, and I'm talking kind of about my ex-husband here, and don't get me wrong, he's a great guy, but at the time, like I didn't even know what submit meant, and so but
Right.
I can look back and say, I wouldn't have because I didn't fully respect him and I didn't feel safe enough to do so with him. And that was my actually probably some of my own insecurities and fears too. It was
Yeah,
fear because I
there's,
was
but there, it's a quantified fear in the fact that, I mean, he drinks, right? And so, and I've drank, I've been with a drinker, and when you sign up for alcohol in a relationship, you have signed up to get hurt. Like that's just a fact. If you don't think you're going to get hurt and either person drinks, you're just like completely full of shit. And you're this is not the podcast for you. I'll tell you that right now. You should just move along because anytime someone drinks, the discerning factors that play in the brain begin to leave. And if you drink enough, they leave. And then when all of a sudden you're each having a bad day and your needs aren't getting met, and this continues year after year after year after year, and resentment is at its peak, and the assumptions are going crazy, and then you get drunk and then she assumes and I assume and then the right person, or I guess the wrong person, walks in the door and fulfills a need, you're fucked, right? Because either you're going to flirt or do something worse. And if you flirt, now you've hurt them and now they can never be safe again because of the factors involved. And it relates to alcohol.
so this is why though when I did get divorced and I was going through and trying to deciding like, okay, what do I want moving forward? Like I wanted a man that I felt safe enough to submit to. I can say that, but I wanted a man that I felt safe enough to just give my heart to.
Yeah.
And I wanted a man I felt safe enough to be vulnerable with, right? And I wanted a man that I could fully respect. And when I was dating, if I could see that there were parts of men that I wouldn't be able to respect,
Mm.
like fully respect them, I would just move on to the next, move
Yeah.
on to the next, move
Just
on to the next.
not a fit.
If I could see, like, and I was practicing being open and vulnerable but I could see if they weren't capable of holding that space for me, on to the next, right? And so so that was like my journey into,
Well, and
wanting that. But um men that I couldn't full like if men that you can't respect, you don't want to submit to, period. I don't know
so
what else to say
so
about that.
I can already see this happening for a lot of women is the assumption part, right? So when you say you wanted to submit, that you did have a practice that said, let me give to see what happens without expectation, right? So men may have felt a little bit, and some of them may have delivered a little bit, right? Like, and been like, okay, I'm safe with him here. Like it's a little rough here, but I still feel safe. Doesn't mean my feelings are always going to be met, but I feel safe enough that like in this area, and vice versa, and back and forth. And what I see of some women taking from what you just said is, if he doesn't make me feel good all the time, he's not meeting my needs. I'm not safe. I'm going to run away. Right. And that would have to do with them, like their trauma, limiting beliefs, and everything else. You did a very good job of removing the trauma, the assumptions, the doubts, and kind of freeing it up to saying like, well, I don't know, I don't understand, and so I'm going to get very understanding, because you are very understanding.
I had to I mean, that was just part of the healing that I
Mhm.
did. Because like I said, if you would have told me 4 or 5 years ago, well, you just need to quote unquote submit, like that, I didn't even know what that meant or what that looked like. All I knew back then was like, I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel good. Something needs to change.
Yeah.
What needed to change? I needed to, you know, heal, but in the process, like learn, I needed to open up, and I needed to open my heart and allow myself, like, I'm trying to I think I want to explain like what it means to submit
You
and
know,
like what that feels like. But when I say submit, it means like I want, like, the healing came with allowing myself to be fully loved by being my full self
letting go.
and letting go of trying to manipulate or control situations in order to get what I wanted. It was like the healing came with the letting go.
And how's it feel to be able to let go?
It feels really good because when I was trying to control everything and I wasn't submitted to anything, I was when I was trying to control everything, I was the unhappiest that I've ever been. But when I've healed and learned to let go, while also learning how to trust myself to make decisions, meaning like trust that I'm not going to give my heart to a man that can't hold it,
Mhm.
right?
Like proper boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. Like, um, now I feel better than ever.
Yeah.
Like I feel totally
Yeah.
fulfilled. So, anyways, go on. What were we saying?
Yeah, so pay attention to the expression that she just gave, right? Because that was important. It was this, now I feel better than ever, but you could see the energy, her emotional state come up to a level that she's never experienced prior to any of this conversation or any of it. And there's a lot of freedom inside of that, a lot of peace, healing, the natural part of the God-given gifts that she was given, and then also I was given, are inspired by that. Because when she lets go and becomes this beautiful feminine thing that is entrusting in me, and granted, I'm a capable man, and not, I'm not perfect, but capable. All of a sudden, I'm like, this is mine and it's precious, and I'm going to make sure it's protected and provided for. Like, don't fuck with me, because it becomes absolute because of the submission, right? And so then she gives that, and then I come back with even more on top of that, and she's like, even better, because it was like I was taking a risk to go here in the first place, but now I'm getting the reward, because I not only is she receiving the physical benefits of it, the emotional and the energy is coming with it as well. And it's something you can physically see between us, right? That neither one of us have really experienced before until now. So there's a lot happening in that conversation. I'm just going to say, don't assume. Always be trying to understand more, having empathy, working on yourself, eliminating your triggers, and in anything that makes you go, nope, not doing it. You're triggered. You should shut the fuck up and work on healing yourself. Right? Like don't play that game of no, 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 whatever. It's a very calm of like, I set this boundary that needs to be here, and this boundary is not being held, or it's not being met, or it's an unsecured boundary. I don't like this. You know what? I better just step away. Even if the guy is right, or even if the girl is right, I need to just put a, like, I don't know. It's unclear. I need to pull back, assess, and re boundary, right? But most people are so emotionally incompetent and crazy that they can't even pull back and be with themselves for a day, right? They got to go cling on to something else, someone else, some social media or so, anything to get out of that uncomfortable state, because that uncomfortable state is almost like a form of suffering, right? Like that lack of connection. It feels like some suffering. But what it's really doing is it's giving you the opportunity to almost reorganize your energy, right? Like you're like reformat your DNA, your genetics, your subconscious mind. And it doesn't, I don't care who you are, anytime you take anything and try to reorganize it, it causes massive agitation. It's like friction, right? So it doesn't, most of you don't understand that this is one of the hardest things you'll ever do, is to sit silently with thought and then change your boundaries and change your perspectives, or change your understanding, because you're too fast to go to whine about it to somebody else, or try to get advice from some loser, or scroll on social media, or read the next book right now. How do I fix this, or hire the coach, or do, but not pull back and just sit in that uncomfortable silence that God created for us to create absolute change. And that's the only place it can happen, is because in those moments, and sometimes you might be, it doesn't mean you can't be in a book, because sometimes books will lead your mind to where it needs to go. But there still needs to be this moment of silence, of you taking the time to write down what you want, and then looking at it and saying, is that really what I want? Is that the truth? Like, oh, I need a guy that does this, or I need a woman that does this. Well, what if that's wrong? Like, because I don't know what I don't know. And what if that's wrong? Maybe I should, maybe, what do I do? And that's really where I'm kind of leading to all this, is like, how do you know, right? How do you know when you're moving in the right or the wrong direction? And there's only one quantifying thing. There's only one way, one authority that will guide you through this, and that is God. Period. End of story. Because without God, it's all about you. It's all about the man. It's all about the woman. And we all know there's this instinct between men and women. But like, men are producers, protectors, whatever. Naturally, women are caretakers and whatever. Naturally. Now, again, I'm not saying they can't do vice versa in their own healthy way. But the reality is, as a man, there is an animal inside of me, and every man. And I don't give a shit what you want to think about or anything else. You could be a righteous man. You could be this man. You could be a crazy drug dealing, whatever man, like all this, but there's an animal that must be kept at bay in every man. And that is like the physical man, that in the Bible it says the natural man is the enemy of God. Well, this is that part of you that's instinctual, that part of you that sees a whatever you would call a perfect woman, a 10, and under certain lights or circumstances, and something happens to you physically. Like, even if you're the perfectly righteous man, if you look for too long, something's going to happen. Now, you might have a game that you play that is processed very well to say you don't look, you keep your mind over here, and you have a healthy boundary around how your mind works with women. But without God, you don't have that. You don't have any parameters. You don't have any quantifiable thing of what's right or wrong. Therefore, just like the animals, like right now in the mountains, that's getting that time where the bucks and bulls and everything are going after the females. You see them all summer hanging out with each other. A bunch of bulls, a bunch of bucks hanging out with each other, eating food, doing whatever they do. See it with all animals, but it's kind of fascinating more so with these bucks and moose and shit like that, because it's just kind of fascinating how you see them. Because what happens when all of a sudden it's like there's something in the air, it's breeding time. All of a sudden they separate, they go their way, and they got their nose up some does cows butt, sniffing away, going, oh, this is where I want to be. And then they fight each other, right? So in the animal world, if man was just an animal or left to his own devices, now you can say, well, men have consciousness, so it doesn't make any sense. Well, what I'm saying is, without God, you can do whatever you want. You have permission to decide the future of life and everyone else's as a man. So you see a woman you want, you go fight, take her, do what you want with her, right? That's the instinct of a man. That's why when we see a woman under certain circumstances, there's some type of physical pull that way. One, it's because God wanted us to have fun having sex with our wives, but two, there is an instinct in us that says we need to breed. Okay, there's even an instinct in us that will cause us to provide and protect and do different things. What is ours? Hang on to. We would battle, we would steal, we would cheat because there is no authority, right? When it comes to women, same thing. What does it matter if you raise a kid properly? What does it matter how many guys or how many whatever you're with? Like there's I don't know what do you think a woman would naturally do if God didn't, if there was no presence of God? What would be the instinctual animalistic side of a woman?
Um, I don't know.
Best breeder.
Best breeder.
Yeah.
Okay.
She would be more physical side. Anything else? Like you think that like, well, I just go here and do this.
I mean,
Most protection, probably, right? Biggest bag of money.
biggest bag of money. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, those are some of the things I think that would
We would dress probably scandalous to try to get the attention
or get the money.
or get the money or
Yeah. Anything, right? All hands off. Everything's about me.
hmm
Right. So if you can use your body to get the money, you would. If you could use your brains to get the money, you would. If like or the safety and the protection, right? That would ultimately be what women would go for. The safety, protection, and breeder. Like who's gonna put me the highest?
well, we would probably lie and steal and manipulate too for it.
Yeah, to get whatever you need, whatever you think your needs need to be met with,
Yeah.
right? And the best wins. That's typically life, right?
hmm
So this may seem like a crazy conversation, right? But it's just the idea that first has to be planted that if you are playing the game of I want an amazing, wonderful relationship, and you're playing it without God, I have no help for you. Zero. Because if you're the authority, if you're the pinnacle of your relationship, you are fucked because you are a sinner. You lie, you cheat, you make mistakes. You are not perfect. You're screwed. You're going to screw this up. Period.
Well, oftentimes I feel like if just from personal experience, if there's no God in your life and you don't have that authority
Mm,
and you're the one that feels responsible kind of for everything,
yeah.
then
It's a heavy weight
it's a heavy weight, which is why we men or women constantly feel like we're failing,
and the need to manipulate,
which is why
control.
we turn um towards things like drugs and alcohol and porn and stuff like that because we want to numb.
Yeah. I mean, I think some people turn towards that because there is God. They just don't understand him because the guilt, right? It's kind of mixed. Like one is the animal side, but if we're animals, I don't even know if we would need porn because we would just go take it and fuck it,
Sure.
right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but because there is God, oh well, I'm going to deny God, but I feel guilty, but it's okay for me to watch porn, right? Because ultimately I'm not cheating, Like that's the story that gets told, right? Well, it's just this thing over here doing this. Like it's fine. Or stealing, blah 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 blah. But it's the guilt. Sometimes it's the guilt that actually makes people do the bad shit that disconnects them.
Yes.
And so there's this mix of shit, right? And one is understand that God gives grace, right? We kind of started this about submitting. And when you started, I think one of the first things you did was you just started submitting to the idea that God has your back.
That was it right there.
Yeah.
I
So,
because I actually told this story, the story of my journey towards God
yeah.
on a podcast or two ago.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that on my healing journey and on my way to a, attract a man that I wanted to submit to, I first learned, I first submitted, I first got myself in a space where I could submit to God and to the universe,
Which is God.
which is God, where I would start to find evidence and that God always has my back, and trusting that God has my back, and trusting that I'm fully supported, and trusting that I don't need to control everything because he does have me, even if it's not always doesn't always look the way that I want it to look.
And you're practicing that letting go.
I'm practicing letting go to God and to the
Mhm.
universe before I even had you. And
Yeah.
that way, so when I'm with you, it's not that I don't think you're God, but I treat you with the same mindset of like, I trust that you always have my back.
To the best of my ability.
I trust that like I'm fully supported with my emotions, my heart, my love, all of it.
But there's this ultimate trust, right? Like this submission that is required to go to God because he's the only one not going to betray you.
But I also trust that just like I would trust God, that like, because you said you're not perfect and you do, I don't know if you use the word mistakes, but sometimes like, you know, God does things the way God does things. And I trust that everything is working for me, even if sometimes things don't look the way that I want them to look, right?
Yeah.
Which I same energy with you. I trust that things are working for me, and that sometimes you make decisions for us that may not necessarily be what I would do or the way that I think it's supposed to look, but my submission is just letting go and like more so giving, like empowering you to be the leader that I can submit to, trusting that like no matter what, even if it's right or wrong, it's all working out for us because it's either going to work out perfect or we're going to grow from it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I go, like, live my life is like everything is either working out perfectly for me or, maybe it's not, but we're going to grow from it. So in the end, it's all working out perfectly for me. And so when I can submit to like God in the universe in that way and just let my hands go and trust my inner guidance and trust that like me and God are in this beautiful co-creation of life, right? And I sit in that energy. Once you came into the picture, it was easy to submit to you.
Well, so to go on to that point, one of the reasons it was easy was because I submitted to God. Right. Now, I always knew God. I always knew Jesus to some extent. But what I didn't understand and still struggle to understand is how to submit to Christ, how to submit to God. And in that submission, it required me to stop controlling, right? Like you can't submit when you're the one controlling things. So it was like somebody's got to make money. Well, I guess I'll go do da 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 da. Forget leaving God out of the conversation. Oh yeah, I know God. Like God's everything. God knows everything. Blah blah blah. Right. But yet I wasn't going. Hey God, thank you. Hey God, what are we gonna do today? Like what are you gonna do through me today? And getting to that point of there are certain things that I get a feeling of what I'm supposed to do, and I feel like this is right. I feel like God's going to support me in it, no matter what happens. It's what's supposed to happen, and I make a decision and I do it. And she knows that, And even sometimes she'll come back at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, this is what I feel like this is where I feel like I need to be. And that's a decision that I came to with God. And so this is what we're gonna do until I hear like get a feeling of doing something different. And I'm so absolute in it that that makes it way easier for you to give to me, submit to me, and be like, well, you know what? Even if he's wrong, like I'm not like you're not going to get judged for it, right? Because like you're doing what God said and thought like respecting me and doing that, so God's going to have your back.
God's gonna have my back. And so, whether you're, if you're so absolute in a decision and you're like, no, this is what we're gonna do. I've spoke to God, and this is the path right here. Even if I'm like, I don't know, but like it's like, I just choose to trust that it's either gonna work out or it's not. And then if not, that's what was supposed to happen too. So it's like I just don't even. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, and here's one of the things that also comes into play of I don't, get a feeling of what to do and then tell her she's going to do it. That's not submission. But sometimes if she questions something, I will very directly say, "This is where I've been led to go, and you don't have to do it. But as my wife, I want you to respect my decision and stop challenging it or whatever." And we haven't really even had to have that conversation, but like I'm always like, you can say no, right? Because this is a conversation that I feel like I'm getting feelings like this is where I have to be. So I mean, I'm not going to force you to do it, but I believe that if you understand where I'm coming from and where I'm at, there's a reason for it that's going to guide me to the next step so I can see further. And we understand that process of getting to the next step to see further.
Yes, and it's not like you're like Mac doesn't make me do anything. Like I choose to be here. I choose to do all of this, and Mac actually treats me like a queen.
Yeah. So with all this conversation and talking about God, like there must be a higher authority or you're betrayed, right? Like it's that simple. Like how does a woman find safety if there's no God? Because man will fail, man will betray, man will do dumb shit, and so then you always have a level of uncertainty. However, God will not. God is your best friend. He's the friend that will never betray you. You might think he will, or you might have guilt happening, like the devil is like he knows his shit. Okay, he knows how to play everything against you, everything else, whatever. You can assume there isn't a devil or there is or whatever, and it really doesn't matter. It's just the fact that our psychology, our minds will create stories of why God doesn't love us or why or how we need to solve the problem, right? How we got to figure this out ourselves and everything else. But as soon as you let go, then say like, no, like God's grace is sufficient. Give it to him, walk away, change your path. And even if you don't, even a lot of times the practice, right? Like you said, you had to practice and you started practicing with God. Well, sometimes we got to practice with ourselves to feel like we're getting closer to God, of saying, okay, I'm going to practice giving it to him, and then I fuck up again, right? And then I make another mistake. I do something stupid. I have some major what you would call biblically a sin or something like that. But it's just like you did something that you kind of said you probably shouldn't do, and then you try to sweep it under the rug and forget about it. The practice is to practice God's grace, to say, yep, I fucked up again. Please show me how to fix this. Right. And that's where I've got to after some major mistakes, like massive, some of the worst shit ever, and wound up detrimental. And then I went, wow, like how did I get here? I'm completely fucked up. I'm dark as all get out. I feel like my soul has decided to leave my body. Like it's checked out. I have this vision in my mind still to this day of it's just like that if I can describe it, this is what it looks like. It's a dark room. I can clearly see me, and there's something that looks almost like a square white light, maybe over here in the room. I can't identify it. It's just this white light. Maybe that's how I can see me. I don't know, but it's over there somewhere. It could be like miles away. I can't tell. I just see me about 10, 20 feet, down there in front of me. And I have this feeling of my of me being in my soul, right? Looking, kind of pointing at the physical me, pointing, being like, I don't know who the fuck that is anymore. I'm out. See ya. Like my soul just said, you're too dark. I'm checking the fuck out until you get your shit figured out. That's what it felt like to me. And I was just like, what the fuck?
Mm.
And at that point, I was like, if I don't change something, do something different, I'm probably going to kill somebody or wind up dead myself or make so many bad fucking decisions, as in probably sexually, possibly drugs. I don't know that, like, once you go there, you kind of like, it's hard to come back from. And I could just see this such a crazy dark path of just like the most ruthless motherfucker you've ever met, taking and stealing and killing whatever he wants, of just like, what if I went there? There's no coming back. Like, that's hell, like absolute hell. And so I went, all right, God, do what you're gonna do. Like, if you're gonna smash me, smash me. Like, it just I don't want that path. Whatever. And from that time, it was probably and then I just kind of like kept going through life, but I put it in my mind and I put it out there. And then I stumbled onto this detox program that now I put all my clients through, and learned and studied it and everything else, and it changed my life. It literally helped. Then I studied on to Warrior Week, and that changed my soul, right? Like, one fixed my body, one fixed my soul. And in that moment, a lot of the problems stopped. I don't know what happened. I don't know how it happened. I just remember, years before, I asked God to help me figure it out. And then all of a sudden I'm in the right place to start figuring it out. It was a
Yeah.
submission.
Once you throw your hands up in the air and submit and you decide that things need to change, God will typically start placing things in front of you and laying out the path for you. You just need to open your eyes and start like seeing it.
And that's the submitting part.
Mm-hmm.
The letting go and then seeing opportunity that God's laying out. Because God's almost always laying it out. He's the all loving. He's not trying to beat you down. God doesn't tempt you. The devil does. So, like, God might test some people, but he doesn't tempt, right, to do bad. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's not how God works. He's not evil. Uh, so, to the point of the entire conversation,
What was the point?
here's the
Tell
point.
us. Tell us what the point is.
Here's what I'm going to slap everybody in the face over: is you cannot have a wonderful, amazing, submitted relationship in at this level if you have porn in the mix. This was specifically talking about getting porn out of your life and not justifying it in any way, shape, or form. And so we, have conversations with some of our clients, a lot more women than men typically. And some of the women are like, it really drives me crazy when my husband is, or boyfriend or whoever is watching porn, or the way he looks at a woman, or whatever. And in our society, it's become this notion that, like, oh, it's just porn. It's just porn, right? And so it's not a big deal. And then some people will even justify it further to say, well, it puts life in it like brings life in my relationship, more sexual energy or whatever. It's like, yeah, because you're addicted to it, not because it's actually helping you, and you're purely focused on the physical side instead of even. Most people will never even understand the depth of the soul on this level. Like, having sex physically is different than having sex emotionally or spiritually, right? Like, it's completely different on a different playing field. And I know people that like, I try to explain it to them what the difference is, and they're just like, their eyes just glaze over because they won't even let go of their addictions. And so this idea that, well, porn is just porn, whatever, right, is absolute bullshit. And if you're a woman or a man and the other person is saying it's okay, it's not. You should tell them, why don't you take that up with God? They're never, it's never going to fucking happen. It's not okay. Now, this is coming from a guy that was addicted to porn for almost 40 years of my life and not knowing how to get away from it. Right. From the time I can remember, well, maybe it wasn't really prevalent when I was, under 15 or 16 years old because we didn't have phones and, the shit wasn't really easy to get to. But my mind was definitely there all the fucking time. Since I can remember, it was masturbation and whatever from then until like 39, 40 or something. And for about a year of my life, I kind of like stopped when I was about 15. And then did a pretty good job of shutting it down when I was like 19, 20. And then it was just kind of always there until 38-ish. And then I stopped for like 3 months and then I was doing great. And then it came back and it came back with a fucking vengeance. And this is when my body was going dark. I must have had some physical shit going on. I don't know, but I went from like, here I'm doing it to then doing really good, staying in the word like every day and like feeling real good about it, going to church and everything. And then it came back and it was like, holy shit. Like I couldn't get away from it. Like, and I just craved it and wanted it. Like that's when I was becoming this animal that I didn't recognize. My soul was like, you like, I'm out. Fuck it. Right.
Mm.
Like, see you later. And I don't I can't explain it, but I remember it coming back so aggressive that it was controlling me to a degree that I was like, this is not good. I like even though the instinct, the animals coming out, wanting more of it, there's this part of me going, this is not good. This is bad. This is not good. I need to find a solution to this. Like, God, I don't know why you're not helping me with this yet, or what I need to do different, or whatever. And that led eventually from the quitting to then the coming back, led to a woman talking to me going to comfort her, fucking her. Huge mistake. I was married. That was a fucking mistake, right? That shit happens because of porn, right? Because there's a taste of it, there's a thing in there. And one, you can't be you can't submit to God when you're doing that shit. You can't be connected. Even though God's grace is sufficient and he forgives you, you will never find the connection you're looking for when you're looking at all these other women, or for vice versa. If a woman is trying to submit to God or submit to a man or anything, and she's up in porn and masturbation and everything else, then you're fucked. Okay, it's not going to work out for you. So you really don't have any authority. You're deciding that you're the fucking authority, that you get to play God, that you get to do this, and guess what? No freedom, no submission, no pure energy inside your marriage relationship.
In a relationship, I feel like um the reason a man wouldn't be fulfilled in his relationship, like if you don't feel fulfilled, because you so desperately want your woman to submit to you, right? Like if
Yeah,
your woman is not submitted to you, you don't feel fulfilled,
no.
period. Right? So,
And let me just throw this in real quick. I'm not judging. Okay, like I still know people that do a pretty good job of submitting and still make errors. It's like that is what it is, like but there can't be any level of it's okay in your mind.
you may
God
not
comes
you
first.
may not know how to like articulate what's missing or what you need, but what is missing is that submission from your wife,
Mhm.
right? And so
Well, it definitely makes a massive difference, that's for sure.
you turn to these other things because you're unfulfilled, so you may turn to porn or whatever. But the problem is when you do that, then um and when you do that, now you are hiding and you are lying and sneaking or watching porn, looking at other women. And when you do that, your wife or your woman now begins to lose trust in you
Yeah.
and your energy and trust in your ability to keep her safe
Yeah, because
and
now
love
she's not safe
her.
because her emotions are exposed because you are looking at someone besides her.
Right. And
And
so,
and remember when I started out this whole conversation, I said a woman needs validation.
and if she doesn't feel safe and validated, and she doesn't feel like she can trust you,
Yep.
then she will not submit to you, which is ultimately what you really want.
Yeah.
So,
And this, here I've seen this a little bit. It's a delicate boundary, but I've seen couples where a man has an addiction and he's trying to get through it, and the wife knows about it, right? Like he's like, this is what I don't know what else to do, whatever. And she's like, and he's trying to give it to God, and she knows, and he's fucking up, and she's like, well, at least there's progress, right? And so she feels safer knowing that he's like doing everything he can, but he has trauma, right? It's just like sometimes a woman has trauma. And as a man, well, we'll put it this way. We all have trauma to some degree. And our perfect match understands it, and we don't feel judged for it. We can communicate it, we can work through it, and usually better ourselves together through it.
well, if you are going through something, right?
Mhm.
If you're going through something, but you're actively like taking steps to get better, that gives a woman certainty.
Even if you're making mistakes.
Even if you're making mistakes, but you're actually putting in the effort, you're going to the meetings, you're, you know, hiring the coach, doing the therapy, whatever it is, like progress and effort gives a woman a sense of
Well, and
certainty.
it also makes a big difference if God is the authority versus, oh, I'm in this program and I'm listening to Joe Blow over here. Right? Like, well, so what? I don't know Joe Blow. Like, fuck him. But when the woman's like, if the man is saying, hey, I'm praying to God, trying to figure this out, but every once in a while it just happens. Like I don't know what happens, it comes over me, blah, 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 whatever. Just like any other addict, right? Shit happens. But she can see that, and if you both know that God is actually the authority and God is the one that you're reporting to ultimately, because he's right here, like he's with us all the time. He's never gone. And when we figure that out, and both parties know it, and both parties are participating in the submission to God, saying, God, just take it from me, like I don't want it anymore, whatever. But some people would be like, well, I do want it because you want to be evil. It's like, no, what you're failing to understand is that what you're looking for is on the other side of the suffering of the quitting, and much more. Like to overcome an addiction, there's so much more benefit. Like so what you're seeking inside of these things, these bad things that are disconnecting you and making her feel unsafe, you'll never have it. Or she's, most of the time I see this more, probably more so than anything else, is a woman justifying it for the man. Well, he's working on it because safety is one of those things that's like, well, as long as I'm this safe, I'll stay, right? But women, to leave it to find something safer, now that's unsafe. So a lot of women will stay stuck in a bad situation because it's too unsafe to leave it. So they'll justify it for the man. Well, he's working on it. Okay, how's he working on it? Well, he's just about, and they don't want to talk about it. And one of the things I'm saying is, women, you have to stand up and say, I don't accept this. If and ultimately for men or women, this is how you want to look at it. You pull yourself back out of the situation and you say, okay, let's say all the things that you think make you inadequate, or you've worked on them, you've figured them out, and you've overcame all your inadequacies. In other words, you're a 10. You're a 10 physically, you're a 10 spiritually, you're a 10 emotionally, you're a 10 in the bank account, right? Let's say you got it all. In those shoes, would you accept that behavior? Like if you were out there looking for a man or looking for a woman, would you go, yeah, I want a man that fucking jerks off to porn and probably little kids coming across the fucking page every so often because that's what's out there.
I
No, I'm just telling the truth. Like it's fucked up.
hear
Like the shit's out there. And I don't give a fuck who anybody is. There's in other countries, I mean, the reality is animalistically, you think about it, animalistically, we have instincts, physical instincts, and everything else. When a girl starts her period, it causes shit to happen. So if you don't think watching porn and everything else doesn't draw you into that fucking cesspool of shit, you're crazy. Like that's a fucking lie. And so if you're over here being a 10, I've got everything figured out, and you're like, ooh, maybe I should take that guy over there that jerks off to fucking whatever. No, you wouldn't accept it. You'd be like, hell no, get the fuck away from me. Same with a guy. If a guy has everything and he's like, oh yeah, let me go take this woman that's so insecure with herself that she's got to masturbate to some other dude, like whatever. Like, no, not accepted. Like, I don't want that. It's just like when I was dating, if a girl even remotely looked like she had a OnlyFans account, bye.
Mm,
Like, not even interested. Okay, like you just check, done, move on, right? Like, not,
mm,
I'm not going to play that game. Yet so many people don't understand that you guys suck. We, me, her, we all suck in the beginning and we have to learn our way to change. And so mine didn't come from a lack of like, I don't think my addiction to masturbation and everything came from a lack of like a need not being met. What it came from was a absolute lack of confidence. I had traumas that broke my confidence, other shit that happened, maybe some other shit I don't even know. But I can tell you, I really lacked confidence. And the higher my confidence got, the more controlled I was, the closer I was to God and all those different things. So here's this character flaw, almost in a sense, that I have to work on to build up myself, to figure out what this looks like, and over years and years and years. And so then I get the confidence, but I still have the addiction, right? It wasn't necessarily about a need not being met, but kind of it was, because I was still able to quit it when my needs or wants weren't being met, right? There were certain things not being met. And all of a sudden, because I submitted to God, I just said, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going to go. I'm going to work on this best I can. I might fuck up, but hey, I'm working on it. And I was keeping the integrity of my word that I made with God to the best of my ability, with without perfection, thoughts going here sometimes or whatever, and turning this course and then saying this, like, God, this is kind of what I want, but help me out here. Give, like, I really just want the woman that you've made for me. Like, I want my Eve, right? So as things play out, what do you know? She walks right into my life. I asked God, hey, if she's not the one, I need you to deal with this, because I don't know that I'm strong enough to like walk away from something this good. But so if she's not the one, you better get her the fuck out of my life. You know,
mm, mm.
like pardon my French in that form, but that's pretty much what I said. I don't think, I'm still a work in progress, but God appreciates what I do in the disciplines that I have and moving forward. So when not only did she stay, but more was revealed of why she was the one. And so then in that point, I can give more and give more and give more and accept more and read into her and then do things that I've never done before, but things that are on her like list of like wants in her relationship. And all of a sudden I'm doing them and I've never done them before. Why do you think that is coincidence? No, it's because God is answering the prayers. That's why. So ultimately, if you don't have God as the authority, then porn doesn't matter. And if porn doesn't matter, then neither does she, because she's never going to feel safe. Never. Like, if you're looking at porn, she does not feel safe. If your woman has told you it's fine, whatever, she's lying to you, or she really doesn't understand herself. Because fundamentally, if you take that woman, heal some of her wounds, fix some of the trauma, put her in the situation where that is no longer an option, and then try to go back on that, you'll find out real fast on where her boundaries are.
Mm,
Fuck no, I'm not putting up with that. I can do better,
mhm.
right? And trust me, women are a lot quicker to go, I can do better than men are. So you guys better watch your ass. Because if she starts working on herself and you don't fix your fucking problem, or at least start working on it and showing her that she can trust you between you and your communication to God, of begging God, please just fix me. I don't know. I'm not good at this. I suck at it. But please, like, I know you are the authority to help me with this. Like, can I just give it to you and you can, when I finally decided, like, I had to quit smoking, like, it just wasn't something I just didn't want to be one. I liked it. I liked what it did. I liked that it made me force me to take breaks. I liked all this shit about it. But I was like, I don't see this in my future. I don't see this in my wants of like who I want to become. So please take it from me. 2 years it took for that. That's, but you just have to ask and be working on it. And then at the right time, trust me, like, the shit in your life that needs to happen will happen as long as you do that. And the more evidence you prove that, in other podcasts, I've talked about how women will test you, how as a man, you need to just stay firm in your decisions. But you can't stay firm in your decisions if you have no perfect authority. And the perfect authority is God. That's it. Like, I'm doing my best to follow what he said. This is where I'm getting it. So don't fuck with me. This is my decision. I guess you can do what you want, but if you go too far outside the boundaries, then you're like disrespecting me and we're going to have problems. But, you can still choose for yourself, whatever. But there's a lot of things that happen in there. My point is, if there's no God, then you're the God. So you can just be a fucking animal, which means she's not safe. You'll never know truly what an amazing relationship can be. How, like, I don't know, the other day, I'm just so attracted to Jan that it's just it like dry, like I'm like, what? Like, you're not even doing anything. Like, maybe not even have makeup on or anything. And which, like, I kind of like that. Like, that's probably more attractive actually. But there's just certain, like, I catch her eyes and it's just like draws me in and I want to do more. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like, it just, like, this is what I've been looking for my whole life. But I was pretty much too fucking weak to let go of the shit until I went through enough of it to finally let it go, submit to God, change it, and then trust in the process. And trusting in the process, I let go and God provides. And in that, it's like freedom to love and just be loved. Probably the be loved part's probably the biggest part, actually. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, most of us, I got so much shit and guilt and like, I'm not perfect or I need validation or whatever, that the reality is we can't be loved. And so therefore trying to give it is a false lift. But when you just move, and please do not take this as me saying you're evil, you're wrong, you need to repent. No, that's not my job. It's not my job to tell anybody to go repent or do anything like that. I'm just telling the truth on porn is bad. There is no right way about it. You can take it up with God. And if you're a guy and you're using it, you're fucking your relationship. And just the idea of saying, okay, I want an amazing relationship with my wife. So God, I don't know. You take, like, show me the next step. And then it's up to you to just take the next step. But the submission has to happen first to some degree. You may not fully understand it, but some step into submission has to happen to God. Then once you kind of take that first initial, all right, show me. And it's not like this. It's not like, all right, I'll believe it when I see it, God. Like, that's bullshit. That eliminates faith. Faith is a key part of the God's plan. And so there's this part where you can feel it inside of you, right? And even if you can't feel it on a positive side, you can feel it on the guilty side because you feel pressure, you feel like nobody understands. Da, da, da. This is all the devil turning it against you to say, like, see, you're imperfect, you suck. But just in that, for you to have a guilty conscience or a suck conscience requires what? There must be an authority. Because if there's no God, you wouldn't be guilty. You wouldn't feel suffering. You wouldn't feel pain. You would just basically feel pleasure for what you took, or physically feel pain for if you got your ass kicked or you lost the woman, right? Like that. That's all you'd feel. The emotions would be gone. So in itself, if this, like, oh, prove it, show me, that is you pretty much acknowledging God because you want to know something proven to you that you already feel inside. That's kind of there. It's kind of like I don't know why people argue this other than they have trauma and they're trying to get away from it. When you can just be like, okay, let me just soften my heart enough to say, just show me. I don't, like, you understand, I'm a hard-hearted motherfucker. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want any of this religious bullshit. But what I do want is an amazing relationship. What I do want is some freedom, some peace in my heart. What I do want is to know that my kids are going to be well, and that something is going to go well here. I want good for people, and you might even think, well, maybe not all of them, but generally, you're a good person. You do your thing. You're a good guy. You're a good woman, but you're not. You're too caught up in the stories and the silence, and you haven't exposed the truth. And you're telling stories, and you're lost over here and over there. Just like the woman that tells herself the story that it's okay that he looks at porn. Like, oh, it's doing this, or he needs it, or well, he's broken. No, it's unacceptable. And if you don't set the proper boundaries to say, I'm like, even if you got to say, I'm going to love you, but here's the honest truth. I can't give you all of myself because I don't trust you because you're looking at porn, and I don't think that's acceptable. Why not just say that? Because if you don't say it, he's never going to back up long enough to say, shit. Now, what he might do is he might argue, well, this is a benefit. No, it's not. It's not beneficial. Okay. Like, don't argue with me. I'm just telling you the truth that it's bad for me. Okay. You can think what you want. It's bad for me. That's what he needs to know. It's bad for me. So I would appreciate it if you could figure it out. You just submit to that level of the truth so that then he can be like, fuck, and he might and he might get angry, he might argue or whatever, but internally he still knows God's present. So if he's a total asshole, he's going to tell you to fuck off and you can just leave now instead of waiting. And some of you don't want to even address that issue because you're too afraid to leave. But if you submit to God, guess what? He has your back. If you leave, he'll find, like, he'll show you where you need to go and you'll figure it out. But don't be weak in the sense of saying, oh, it's okay, because it's not. It's just not. God is the authority, and you can look very easily and figure out what's happening here. And in our world today, with so much pornography, I mean, even the animation these days is fucking ridiculous. The stuff that's happening with like the child sex trafficking stuff, it's just fucking evil. Like it's bad. And if you're in porn with all the nasty shit that's in there, that shit's coming across your table and then it's in your head and you're going to have to answer to God to that someday. And that's none of my fucking business. It's your business, but don't be going around thinking it's fine. So this is your little bit of a kick in the ass wake up call. Just ask him to show you the fork in the road to start going a different direction so you can have an amazing life. And since I've done this, like I make money easier, my relationship's fucking amazing, my body is functioning at a higher level, but like everything is better. Everything. And even after this is like going on 3 years, I think. At this point, like I like really don't think about it. At first I was like, man, it's just constantly there. It's there, it's there, it's there. And like kind of thinking, man, I really have to be careful with this. Now I still have to be super careful because once you've done something, it's always there to get you. Okay. Like it just like smoking, drinking, any of it. Like it can only take one slip and then it's okay again. And so the but what's nice is like I just want my wife. My mind doesn't go to like the other places that it would have when I was always looking at porn. Like it was always chasing something or the next hit. It was like before scrolling was porn, like the next, I need more, I need more, I need more. Like it's very addicting. So yeah, no excuses. It's not okay. God is the authority. And when you put God is the leader in your business, in your life, and for your wife and your relationship and everything else and your kids, things work a lot easier. It doesn't mean you're always going to feel the best, but it just works out. It like
Mm.
I the last 2 years of my life have been the best 2 years of my life. I'll put it that way. And I've had some good times. That's not negating the experiences I've had with my kids or any of that stuff, my stepkids. But it's just like I've had so much peace and so much joy in doing some of the simplest shit, but yet still accomplishing everything I've always accomplished or more. So it's been amazing. Anything you want to add to
I don't know. I'm getting tired now.
that?
I thought that was great though. I feel like I always get so like lost in what you're saying. I'm like,
Yeah.
and you say it so good too.
Yeah, it is
Mhm.
pretty late right now. So
Yeah, I just really think that more men actually do like just talking about like porn in general. I think more men I don't know if the word is like suffer with that addiction than like is talked about, like I
I
think a lot of men.
I mean I think the number is as high as like 9 to 1.
I dated a guy um who asked me to change some pass or put in new passwords on his phone to block certain sites.
Mhm.
He was like, "Will you just do it?" And I was like, "Okay." I just
Yeah.
did it for him. But because he had an addiction to porn in the past too, and like it was kind of creeping back. And he was like, "Will you please put the like block the numbers or whatever?" And I was like, "Sure, do."
Yeah, I mean, there's physical urges that happen, and then you just kind of like want to drift that way, and if there's nothing to stop you, why wouldn't you?
There really isn't, and if there's really nothing worse than wanting to give your heart to a man that you can't trust.
Hmm.
And so, like, if you're a man that is watching this, like, your woman probably, she really craves giving her heart to you, but lying and hiding and doing these animal things, like,
I mean, I should say one amazing thing that I haven't had to deal with you is um I don't need for sex because like we just have great sex, right? Like or if I am like let's say I get horny, right? We just do our thing one way or another. Like I don't you're very amazing in the sense of like you want it, I want it.
the if you're not having sex with your woman, it's because she doesn't feel safe with you.
Yeah.
And the reason, like, I've never wanted to have sex more, and it's because I'm so drawn to you too.
Yeah, and you feel safe and you like I think I do a good well, I don't know, but I'm guessing that I do a really good job of making you feel beautiful.
You do.
Yeah. Mm. And so if she even caught me looking at porn, right? She'd be like the inadequacies would start to go, or like what's he looking for? What's this? And it would just be story after story after story. So then the next time I want sex, it's in the back of her head. Right.
I mean, Mac is so good though that, like, even on your phone, when you know how when we turn on Instagram or different apps on our phone, like, it'll show you what you look at the most, right? And like things will
Mhm.
pop up. Like, you put on your Instagram or your TikTok.
TikTok.
It's like, a lot of guys when they open up their Instagram, it's like all it is half naked women, half naked women. When Mac opens up his, it's like snowmobiling videos and like
Well,
car things and
sometimes
like,
it does though. Sometimes
well,
it'll
every
like
once
still
in a
show a bunch
while,
of like it like knows I'm a dude.
every once in a while, yes,
It fills up
it knows, but like, I mean, I've never felt like you're on your phone
looking for
looking
yeah.
at women or
No.
anything like that. Like, I've never felt that with
Yeah.
you. So I
Well,
really appreciate that.
sometimes like if I'm kind of flipping through something, she'll be like, "What's that?" And I'll be like, "What's what?" And it will be like some lingerie ad with some girl or something. I just don't even see it. It's just kind of like, and she's like, "What's that?" I was like, "I don't know." And I go, "Oh, it's just an ad," because I've just tuned it out.
I also do believe that it's natural, like, human instinct or whatever. I don't know if that's the right word, to
Nature.
human nature to look at
Yep.
look. If something pretty walks by, like, and he happens to look, like, I'm probably gonna look too, but I don't feel like a there's a difference between like really staring and like getting creepy about it, or just like looking. And if I don't really catch you looking that
No.
often, but even if you
I
looked,
I
I
know
wouldn't.
sometimes there's like urges, right? That like that body, that physical side will have urges to like just be drawn to something, and it's just like no,
I
like
mean, even
dumb,
if a good looking man walked by, like, we probably both will look.
probably.
And it's like, rather than getting angry about it, it's kind of just like, did you see that? Did you see that? Like, mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's like so it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, you just got to do your best, and sometimes the best doesn't look pretty.
Always do your best, just like for the first agreement and the four agreements is always do your best.
Yep.
Just do your best. Be honest. Tell the truth.
But all that was said just to say, hey, porn's not okay. find a way to get over it. That's essentially, to sum up the entire thing. Hey, it's just not. Move on, find a way, do something, get help, whatever.
There is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, it was it took me just under 40, like I was 39, I think. No. Yeah. No, I think I was 40. I think
And
I was
you
actually
can
40
beat
when I
it
stopped.
just like you can beat any other addiction, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
That's
all
very
right.
good. Very
Well,
good.
I will
Episode
see you
66.
guys next time.
Okay, thank you. Bye.